So thank you so much for having me. It's my first time in India, and it's been a great experience so far, so thank you. I'm here to talk about, so they've asked me to talk about megatrends and sustainability, and because I work in a passenger rail company, I wanted to talk about the future of cities and focus on that, because really the future of urbanization in cities is the business case for a company like MTR. So I did a bit of research, and according to KPMG, they say there are a couple megatrends in sustainability. They have, I think, 10 other megatrends, big data, all that. But I wanted to focus on things that would focus on sustainability per se. 3 things that they mentioned. Number 1 is climate change, resource stress, and urbanization. The one I'm going to be talking about today is urbanization, because as I said earlier, it's the thing that really drives business growth for a company like MTR. Before I go to the next slide, one thing I wanted to tell you, just to give you an idea, because I'm not quite sure if people, every time I go outside of Hong Kong, I'm not sure if people know what MTR is. And MTR basically is a passenger rail company. If you've been to Hong Kong, if you've ridden the train, you've likely ridden an MTR train, because MTR is pretty much a monopoly in Hong Kong. So we're not the food business. We are a very unique kind of company, because unlike other rail companies, we also own the property on top of the train station. So we do property development. We also do malls. So the reason having malls on top of train stations is to build the passenger base. So people come to the malls, live on top of the train stations, and then they use the trains to go. And so in a way, it's a sustainable business model. Why do I want to talk about urbanization? In MTR, we clearly see this as the hinge of growth for us. And we think it's looking good, because by 2025, 600 cities in the world will contribute to 65% of economic growth. 440 of these cities are going to come from emerging markets like India. And in fact, actually, we are working in India. You may not see us, but we're working with the government as a consultant for, passenger rail. But this is a problem with, if we are increasing more people in cities or having urbanization, these are the 3 main problems. Increasing population to cities, more opportunities for development and sustainable living, which is great, but also more pressure on infrastructure and natural resources. We're already seeing a lot of cities, for example, if I use Hong Kong as a case, 70% of Hong Kong's resources don't come from Hong Kong. We rely heavily on China, Indonesia, other resource-rich countries around us. It's the same case can be made for Singapore and likely for the big cities you have in India. A lot of the resources cannot be taken from the city itself. You have to take it outside. So there's a lot of pressure. And the more people you put in a city, the more pressure it is on infrastructure. We're already seeing traffic jams, huge traffic jams in Manila, in Jakarta, Bangkok, and that was the same problem in Hong Kong. So in the 60s, at that time, under the British colonial government, I would like to say this is probably one of the best gifts the British government gave Hong Kong. In the 1960s, the traffic was so bad in Hong Kong, it's so bad. It's pretty much like the traffic in Jakarta and Manila. And the British government decided, we need a transport rail system. And they looked at the London Tube for inspiration and said, there are problems with the London Tube. Let's try to see whether we can take the ideal London Tube to Hong Kong and see if it works. So basically, that's what MTR is. MTR's inspiration comes from the London Tube. But in a way, the London Tube had 100 years in advance in terms of learning, and so we learned a lot from how the tube developed and kind of taken those lessons learned and tried to build, hopefully, a better network. And in fact, the reason why I mentioned London is we are also operating Crossrail in the UK, in London, this year in May.